Hey everyone, Dr. Clark. I want to share and update some new information about the danger of gluten sensitivity in coffee. Last October, I attended a conference at which Dr. Aristo Vojdani was presenting, and he clarified the situation and greatly amplified the situation when it comes to cross-reaction between gluten antibodies and other foods and tissues. Now, if you remember about a year and a half ago, I posted some information about the reaction between coffee and gluten. And at the time, basically what we knew was that there was a protein in coffee that would cross-react with gluten. Now, what does cross-reaction mean? Cross-reaction means that the antibodies for gluten, which normally stick to gluten, and it's what helps your immune system find it and kill it, those antibodies can stick to other things that are not gluten because they look close enough to gluten that those antibodies will stick to them. Now, what happens then is if you eat those foods that the gluten antibodies can cross-react to, well, then you can get a gluten type of immune system reaction. So you could be eating a gluten-free diet, but to your immune system, you're really not, because these other things are cross-reacting with the gluten antibodies. Now, there was a huge uproar about this thing with coffee, and a lot of people emailed me, and thousands of people watched the video and said, I got all kinds of comments saying, I eliminated coffee based on this and, it made a huge difference. And I'm glad that it did, but it probably didn't do it because of the gluten cross-reaction. There's some new information that was updated in October. It was just published in a journal in January that shows this. It's not coffee that's the problem. It's instant coffee that's the problem. So good news for a lot of you. But now, there are some reasons why you probably did get better when you eliminated coffee. I'm going to cover those in just a second. But for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to explain to you how they did this study. It's a mind-blowing study. It's super important. It's super critical. I got a lot of videos to share this information with you. What they did, and I'll kind of just break it down like this. If you consider the binding of gliadin, which is a protein in gluten, we'll just call it gliadin. If you consider gliadin binding with the gliadin antibody at 100%, okay, here's what the binding reaction rate was for some other things. So 100% was gluten, okay, with gluten antibodies. That makes sense. There was an 83% reaction of instant cafe latte with those gluten antibodies. An 83% reaction. That's huge. Now, what they found out is only about 20% of that reaction was due to the milk that was in it. And that's a whole other video about milk. About 62% of that reaction was due to a gluten contamination of that instant coffee. They said that they read the label and it said may contain gluten. Well, it turns out that's what the problem is with the original information that we shared, is it was instant coffee that was the problem, not regular coffee. So not only was the instant cafe latte powder the problem, they checked two other kinds of instant coffee and they had up to 23% reaction, which is very, very significant. Now, the good news is there was no reaction, no cross-reaction for pure, fresh coffee made from beans from Israel, Turkey, Armenia, Greece. Okay, no reaction. And there was no reaction from fresh coffee made from about 4 different coffee houses, espresso made from 4 different coffee houses, one of which is, I know you're all going to be very happy, Starbucks, the McDonald's of coffee. There's one everywhere, and there was no reaction with their espresso and gluten antibodies. Okay, there was also no reaction for pure cocoa and milk-free dark chocolate, because as you're going to find out if you don't already know, milk is the single biggest cross-reactor, and it's very problematic. Now, if you stop drinking coffee and you still fit really well, why did that happen? Well, and I'm going to end it with this. Coffee is also a Th2 immune system booster, and many people with autoimmune diseases, unless you know what you can tolerate, you have a 50-50 chance of not doing well when you drink caffeine. So if you got rid of coffee, that is one very important reason why you got better, but it probably wasn't the gluten antibody cross-reaction, unless, of course, you were drinking instant coffee. So the moral of the story is this. If you felt good getting off of coffee, but you weren't drinking instant coffee, then there's a pretty good chance that you have an autoimmune condition or undiagnosed autoimmune condition. You need to be working with someone that understands the Th1 and the Th2 balance and how to help you deal with that, because this new information is shocking and exciting, and I've got a lot more videos to share with you, but instant coffee is the problem.